if you look at, like every language around the world is being impacted by English, and it's being impacted by English stroke American culture. I mean, very much so. Yeah, unfortunately, it is or has become the major language that everybody deals in. There's good things to that, but there's also bad things to that, and that your own language. I noticed, for example, that this has been happening for a while, and obviously because people in Flanders and in the Netherlands speak very good English, but I noticed that they say a sentence and every second word is an English word, and I'm like, we are losing our language. We are losing it to the global language now, and it's become so present that people don't even notice that it's an English word now. It's just part of what they say. So they'll say a word in Dutch, a word in English, a word in Dutch, a word in English, and eventually, there's more English words being said in the Dutch language than there are Dutch words. It's a strange phenomenon. Not one that I'm particularly happy with, but it's progress, I suppose. It's just the way it is. I don't know if you guys noticed that in other languages, but I certainly noticed it in ours.
It happens in Portuguese, and I think it's a consequence of social media, internet, the fact that people travel way more than before. Like we all remember, like the days where to get a boarding pass, you need to have like a massive wait. It's not the case anymore. Like everyone now is allowed to travel, which is great. I'm not complaining about, but before it was an elite kind of thing. It's not anymore. Most people can afford, let's say, one international travel per year. At least in Europe. So it's not a major thing to go and be forced to speak in English, and people will bring the English words home, and the neighbor will do the same, and the friends and the relatives, and at some point it's just a norm. Is it something similar in Greece, Maria?
This is actually, Greece is an interesting case because the language is actually very far removed from English. It's not the same, group of languages at all. And we have a different alphabet as well. So when words pass over to the language, it's way more prominent. It's there. Like, we don't say perform in internet research anymore. We say to Google something. We just add a Greek suffix at the end of it, and all of a sudden it's a verb. So it really bugs me. And another reason I take more personally is that video games have really impacted us, because video games very, very rarely get translated in Greek. So people learn a lot of their English from there. So they translate those words. Not even translate. They transcribe these words into Greek. So they will use them more than the equivalent Greek words, because the Greek words are very cringy. And do you notice it more and more with young people? They don't like how to say, for example, the word skill or ability that the character has in a video game. So they will say skill, and they will use that in their everyday speech, which annoys me, because I don't know. I feel I like the idea of cultural exchange, not when it comes to language as much. I like the idea of, every language having its own identity that's very discrete. Yes, other words, yes, other sentences. But when I heard the other day, what was it? Yeah, communicate. Say I communicate, and, piece of information or something. That's not something you say in Greek. You say I share this information. So someone used like that in national television. It was a journalist or something. And I just lost it. I was like, this is so out of control. Even the, Queen's Greek, equivalent of is tainted now. And everyone says words like cringe in their everyday speech, or spam and stuff like that. And yeah, the Greek words are usually much longer than English. So it makes sense that young people will switch to English, to type, or to be funny and to, make pants and all of that. But it really seems that we're losing the originality of the language to a point that all the ads and the, like digital places, I would say, to expand it, they don't feel Greek anymore. Like the humor is not there. It's just something quick and catchy instead of witty like it used to be. And again, from my own personal experience, because I used to work in translating video games, it is very difficult to balance what the players want with what the proper language is, with making it fun and making it correct. So I can understand where this is coming from, but still, I think this general reluctance to use our own language and just switch to English when a lot of people don't speak English very well, it's hurting our knowledge in both those languages. I feel we're not talking about people who have very good English and very good Greek. We're having people that have mediocre Greek, very bad English, so then they're not very proficient in either language. And now I'm noticing this as a teacher, like kids have lost their ability to write good essays in Greek because they think of some expressions in English, or they try to make it as quick as English is, but that's not how the language worked, or how dictation works in Greek, for example. So some characters have started to resemble English letters, and I don't know, I find it so upset. And it's like we're trying to grip our own identity so much, and I feel we're losing it to globalization, which is not a bad thing in everything, but to me, with languages, I don't know, this big melange of cultures, it means everyone is losing their ability in the individual language. So I don't know, it upsets me a lot as a Greek, as a British, as a translator, as a teacher, as a writer, even as everything.
Yeah, I had a funny experience when I was now traveling São Tomé and Príncipe, and for those who don't know, maybe not every viewer is aware of it, but São Tomé and Príncipe is a former Portuguese colony. So I was very curious to see what's the Portuguese there, because it's different in every single colony in Brazil, in Angola, Mozambique, and São Tomé. And I barely met anyone from São Tomé when I lived in Portugal. So I was very eager to see what accent they have, what words they use, how well they speak, because I know the education is not always accessible to people in Africa. Of course, I spoke mainly with people who have a degree or are fairly educated, and I was positively surprised with their Portuguese. Most of them were using words that many people in my hometown, they don't. And they were grammatically corrected. They were very conscious of the sentences they were using. And it was not just when they were speaking to me, let's say, the Portuguese men, even between themselves. They cared about the way they expressed themselves and try to be accurate all the time. Now, I'm talking about a fraction of the population, but still, I would like to clap that.
Yeah, it's a different thing to actually witness it when you go, back home, I guess, or the extension of back home in your case, in a way. So yeah, now it feels, less weird to talk about how we're experiencing this when we're trying to write in our native language and we can't or we don't. Yeah, English is very easy to use, I find, as well. Like it gets you where you need to be without the length of other languages or the complexity of others. So it's just, it's easier in general. And when you're a writer, it grants you a wider audience immediately. Because as much as I would love to translate my work in the languages that I speak, I feel that I would be very, very limited if I tried to make a living of it in Greek instead of English, for example. So I think it's just, professionally speaking, at the moment, it seems to be a wiser choice if you have a good grasp of English to just try it out at that language first.